In this chapter, we are going to be talking about conflict and interpersonal communication. We're going to start with a general overview of conflict, then talk about the 5 different conflict management styles that we can enact, and then we're going to talk about how our culture plays a role in how we handle conflict, before finally talking about how we can handle conflict more competently and how we can successfully negotiate. So let's start off by talking about conflict and interpersonal communication. Regardless of your current living situation, whether you are living at home with your parents or with a romantic partner or with a roommate, you have likely had a conflict with someone that you live with, either in the recent past or in the distant past. The question that I want you to ask yourself is, how well do I handle conflict? To lay out some terms for us, interpersonal conflict occurs in interactions where there are real or perceived incompatible goals, scarce resources, or opposing viewpoints. So these different things, these incompatible goals, these scarce resources like time or love or money, or these opposing viewpoints can be either real or perceived, and either one of those can cause a conflict. One important thing to recognize about conflict is that it is an inevitable part of close relationships. And it can take a really negative emotional toll both on the relationship and on the individuals within it. So feelings like anger and guilt are very valid negative feelings that can come out of conflict. However, conflict isn't always negative or unproductive. The quantity of the conflict within a relationship is not as important as how the conflict is handled. In other words, whether you are fighting every single day or not, the way that that conflict is handled is much more important to the overall relational satisfaction. And if conflict is well managed within a relationship, it actually has the potential to lead to more rewarding and satisfactory relationships. Because in a conflict, likely some issue or some problem is put forth, and perhaps a solution to that issue comes out of this conflict. So it's not always a negative thing. Ultimately, there's no right or wrong way to handle a conflict. Any competent communicator will be able to assess the multiple different contexts in which the conflict might be happening and be able to apply or adapt the various communication tools and skills that they have to fit whatever situation it is that they are in. So I can't sit here and tell you that this is the absolute best way for you to handle conflict, because that panacea, that cure-all, doesn't exist, right? There is no one way to solve a conflict or to handle a conflict well. It ultimately depends on the context that the conflict is happening in, the relationship, and so many other factors. But it is an inevitable part of our relationships, so we are going to learn how we can potentially handle these conflicts better.